Welcome to All the Things, the unscripted podcast where we talk to intriguing people from a variety of cultures, backgrounds, and career paths and deconstruct who they are and why they think the way that they do. We dig deep and ask unexpected questions to learn about all the things, from faith and current events to relationships and mental health. We want to satisfy your craving for knowledge, true connection, and real conversation. This is Lenya Heitzig and Lindsay Maestas.
All the things.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the All the Things podcast. I am here with Lenya, and I'm so excited because we're going to be doing a little bit of a Q&A today about pastor's wife life that Lenya has experienced over the last how many years, Lenya?
I started in 81. We moved to New Mexico and maybe started the church in 82. Really long.
Yeah. I asked on our social media on Instagram at allthethings.podcast for some questions from you guys about what you'd want to know from a pastor's wife. And Lenya, one thing I just absolutely love about you is that you're so honest and you're not afraid to talk about and share the truth. And that's just what people need to hear.
Amen.
So we're going to just dive in to question number 1.
Oh, good.
Has it ever bothered you when your spouse, Pastor Skip, cannot share confidential things that you know are weighing on him?
Never.
No.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Because that's out of left field. I guess it's like being married to a CIA guy. And you're like, and where are you going? I don't know, honey. I'd have to kill you if I told you. But I think confidentiality is good. Maybe earlier in the marriage that may have been, but I have seen more and more the heavy weight that the pastors carry.
Yeah.
And I'm just so glad I don't have to carry it. There's part of me that I'm like, Lord, that is such a mercy to me because Skip can carry things differently than I do.
Yes.
And it, not that he doesn't get weighed down, but he has this ability. I tend to emote way more and to really, I'm a high compassion, mercy person. So like there was this couple in our church that she was deaf and he was not. And they were having marital problems. And God let me in on that. And I ended up learning sign language to be able to minister to this couple. But when I am intensely in something that I feel God has called me to, I carry it earnestly.
Yeah.
And so I was highly involved in that situation. And I just can't be highly involved in every situation.
Because Jesus protecting you.
Yeah.
And then Skip can carry what needs to be carried. But that's not, it's good that, and maybe not the same for everybody, but maybe that perspective of this is God's protection and my husband has been given, he has a calling and he's been given what he can handle.
I'm called to be
By
the
God's
pastor's wife.
Yeah.
My calling is to help him achieve his calling, not to carry his calling, but to come alongside of him.
Good.
And so if I try and assume the role of the pastor, then we're in conflict. And that's not my job. I love having the home and he comes home and he's relaxed and it smells like food or it's decorated in a way or I have done things that he can decompress. And so I think using my energy for that is better than trying to be a co-regent.
Yes.
I don't need to be the co-pastor.
I've actually seen that happen where women struggle, just having conversations, where women struggle with feeling like they want to be 50-50 and on making those decisions. And it seems to only cause
Strife.
difficulty and strife.
Yeah, Skip doesn't want it either.
Yeah.
I mean, look, it doesn't mean that I don't have skills and that I can't teach and that I can't do things.
Well, you run an entire women's ministry, so people know you have skills.
Right. So I'm just saying, but
Yeah.
I use them where they need to be used. And honestly, I don't go to executive meetings, staff meetings, and things like that I trust that God has placed the people who need to be where they are to make the decisions. If Skip wants my opinion, I'll give it. Maybe sometimes I give it and he doesn't want it. No. But I really feel that it has been God's grace for me, that God did it so that I could float.
Good. All right. Second question. Do you feel like there are things you can't do that women who are not pastors' wives can do?
Yes.
Like what?
Well, I think a lot of times women wonder where they fit in the ministry because, pastoral roles are predominantly male roles, correct? And even Paul, says there are different roles for men and women. And so many women want to be in ministry and they go, where do I fit? And because I'm a pastor's wife, somehow it's coattails. I've got these amazing coattails that I get to do a lot of things by virtue of being Skip's wife. And so I think that my position as women's ministry is to elevate as many people as possible, that I always want people on my shoulders. And I kind of say that everybody's good, find out what they're good for. And every woman is good, and she's got so much, and much of the ministry is done by women. Really, there are way more women who volunteer than men.
Yes.
And so I want women to discover their gifting, their calling, and elevate them and make sure they're being used and contributing and being fruitful in every way that they can. But sometimes I feel like by virtue of being married to Skip, I see where I fit. But I will say, when we first got saved, I kept saying, I know what you're going to do, but what am I going to do? And Skip would say, if God calls you to sweep floors, do it to the glory of God. And I almost wanted to punch him. You know what I mean? Like, what? I can sweep
That's all I'm
floors?
good for.
And then at first I had typing skills. And he goes, well, you can type up the bulletin. What? I could just type. You know what I mean? So there were times that I bucked against it. But, we're to be the servant of all.
Yeah.
And even pastors are to serve, and pastors' wives are to serve. And so he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much.
Yeah.
And sometimes God tests us in the small stuff.
Yeah. Good. How isolating has it been for you being a pastor's wife?
Incredibly. And so I would say, make sure you're called. I really felt from salvation, quickly after that, I felt like God called me personally to be a pastor's wife. And so I know that I'm in my calling. I know that I'm joint with Skip in this calling, and there's great confidence, and we never wonder, never, ask God, are you sure? I've always been sure, but I would say it's highly isolating.
Is that because you have so many people under you and so many people under Pastor Skip that you're not able to really share life with them because it gets mixed and muddled? Or where does the isolation come from?
Sure, I think that's a component, but part of it is that a pastor or a pastor's wife dies the death of 1,000 cuts, 1,000 paper cuts. It's expectations. There is, an expectation when we first got married that I would have a bouffant and a soprano voice and could play the organ. And I was never going to be that person.
Yeah.
And I remember when we first moved here, I was only 23. And I think we did a women's retreat, and I heard this lady who'd been in the ministry say to someone, who does she think she is? She's just, blonde and pretty and from California. And immediately just kind of like diminished.
Judgmental. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think you're scrutinized and judged with the clothes you wear, the car you drive, the people you hang out with, the words that you say, your personality. I have a larger than life personality. I really do. And
wisdom.
Yeah. And I prayed for that. We talked about that to King Solomon. I really did pray God would give me wisdom. And so sometimes people just scrutinize you for everything, and you just feel like you can't do anything right. And really, that should be true for every Christian. We need to be God pleasers, not man pleasers. So you clarify really quickly, what is your calling? What is God asking you to do? And can I be a God pleaser? But in all truth, within the first 5-10 years of ministry, I really felt depressed and overwhelmed. And I remember this gal came through town, and she was doing a dissertation on pastors' wives. And maybe we were at the 10-year mark. And she said, I'd like to interview you. And I said, I don't think you want to interview me because I'm totally failing right now. I'm depressed. I feel like I just don't even know how I fit. I'm overwhelmed, blah, blah, blah. So she goes, no, that's perfect.
What I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, dang it. She's probably talked to all these other people that are amazing. And so when I was telling her, the expectations were killing me. And at that time, just being married to the pastor's huge. Like just to keep up to all the social things. And like you said, those expectations, if Calvary has 10, 15,000 people.
Yeah.
If I tried to go to dinner with 3 people a week, and that would be 52 weeks. That means I could do like 150 a year. Okay, so I'm still 150 and you've got 1,500.
Yeah.
You do the math, how
Yeah.
long it would take for me
15,000.
to have dinner.
You'll never,
I
ever
will
do
never
it. Yeah.
cycle through it. So it's an realistic expectation for me to be intimate with everyone. And that's hard because I would like to be. It's not like I'm choosing. It's just, you have to keep a clarity of what you're called to do. And if I tried to do that, I wouldn't be able to fulfill the rest of the callings I think God has for my life.
Yeah.
And so, yes, a little bit of that, a little bit of the 1,000 expectations. Also, you forget when I'm trying to be friends with other pastors' wives on staff, and I'm the senior pastor's wife. So I would say I'm speaking now to senior pastors' wives. My husband is their husband's boss. And so sometimes I am alienated from them because they may not like the decision Skip has made, or if she complained to me, it could threaten her husband's position. And so sometimes I can't even get close to the other people who would
Be
make
the people
sense
that you
they're
would
in
get
it
close
here
to.
with me because of that. And so they're just
So how do you work through that in your mind? Like, have you come to a place where you have contentment with the position that you're called to? Or because isolation, you never get used to a feeling of isolation. That's not normal. And so although you're around people all the time and constantly communicating and getting to know people, how have you worked through just maybe not being able to have that closeness that you would desire?
Well, there was a really neat couple, Bob Shank and Sherry, that came out here years ago for our staff to do a thing about calling and how to be married together. And one of the things they asked her, do you have a lot of friends in the ministry? Her husband had been a pastor, and she said, no, my friends tend to be from out of state and from different places. And so the ones that I ask the most questions from, it's like they don't have a dog in the hunt, so to speak.
Yeah, they're not connected.
So I do now have a lot of friends, but then that's still, I want friends on a daily basis, right? So I do have a group of women that are my confidants. And when I'm trying to puzzle through a decision or something, or let's say I get an accusation, maybe someone comes to me and says, you're unkind or blah, blah, blah. Then the first thing I do is ask Jesus, of course. And the Holy Spirit can convict me. He won't condemn me, right?
Amen.
The enemy comes to condemn. The Spirit comes to convict. And if I'm convicted, I am very quick to repent because I believe our relationship to man impacts, or to humans, impacts how we are to God. Forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. That's important. And I want a very short time span. So I will ask forgiveness as quickly as possible if there's something. But I don't also want to bear guilt that I didn't create.
Right.
And so I'll ask God, then I'll ask my husband, do you see this flaw in me? Because we all have blind sides. And I'll let him speak into my life because he's my husband. And then I have a couple of friends. Do you think this rings true? And then I have a counselor, a personal woman who's much older than me, wise, and is a counselor, and I will call her. And I've gone through seasons where I've actually counseled with her through a situation because she would hold me accountable for something that was going on and an expectation of how I could be responding appropriately. So for me, I kind of have these circles of trust that I bounce these things off of, and it's been good for me because otherwise I tend to be highly introspective, and my counselor works with me a lot about guilt motivation. I can be very guilt motivated.
Me too.
And so to unlock that guilt, this is how I do that.
Yeah.
I let other people speak into my life.
That's good. How do you curb your anger when your husband is verbally attacked by someone in or outside of the congregation?
That's really hard. You have to sometimes you got to take the bullet. And I say sometimes you take that because you're supposed to turn the other cheek and love your enemies. And sometimes they're frenemies. They're people you thought were friends, but they turn into enemies.
Is that more common, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just in all honesty. Sometimes the closer people are, the more they can hurt you, right?
Yeah.
And so when we were in Ocean Hills, Skip and I left the church for a season years ago. And we were at this church in Ocean Hills, and we were given the PR, the press, that everybody there was so excited that we were coming. But in fact, there were great factions of people that did not want us to come. And we didn't know. It's like we parachuted into Vietnam. And you're like, you immediately,
we are not welcome here.
You immediately land in friendly fire. And you're like, friend or foe, you don't know where it's coming from. And so one day we came to church. It was one of the first few weeks we were there. And I saw this woman sobbing at the front of the church. And so I walked up to her and I go, hi, I'm Lenya. I'm the new pastor's wife. And I noticed you were crying. And can I pray for you? Is there anything? And she goes, yes, I'm watching your husband kill our church. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so I said, maybe you just haven't given him a chance. You haven't gotten to know him and, his heart and blah, blah, blah. And it never really went well with that woman. But I did walk up with all sincerity and open-heartedness and kindness to be spoken to her. But I thought, if I respond in kind, it's, the Bible talks about you can invite people over for dinner if they're your friends and you expect something in return, but you should go to the highways and the byways and ask people that could never give anything in return. Yeah. And so that is love, right? Mm-hmm. Love hopes all things, believes all things, endures all things. Yeah. And so those are opportunities where God is teaching me to love, agape love, unconditional love. And it's
bless
not
those who curse you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's not easy and it hurts, but you can do it. You can take the blow and you can return love. And boy, that's something the whole world could use right now, right?
Amen.
If we could do that.
Good. What are the cliches or some cliches of a pastor's wife that you just don't fit?
Most of them. Okay, so my first or second pastor's wives conference. I was a working woman. When Skip and I moved here, we couldn't live on just his salary. So I was working. And we went to this pastor's wives conference. I did, not we.
Yeah.
And all the other pastor's wives didn't work. And I was starting to feel more and more an anomaly. And someone from the pulpit said, how many of you gals here work? And I didn't know. So boom, my hand goes up. And then I look around. I'm like, wah, wah, wah. Pull my hand down. And so there were things that, now that's probably more common. But when I was a pastor's wife, it wasn't common. Yeah. And honestly, every pastor's wives now that I have met and normalized do different things. The expectation is I think a lot of pastors' wives think they need to be a teaching pastor's wife and run the women's ministry, and that's just not true. Raul Reese's wife runs their mission ministry. Karen Johnson, Jeff Johnson's wife, she does this whole thing on adoptions and abortions where she tries to encourage people. So I think that you have to go with your calling, your passion, what God has called you to do. Yeah. Don't try and be a mini me, Lenya Heitzig. Don't try and be a mini Chad Veach's wife or, whoever, Levi Lusko's wife, because we're all different. And so we have to live up to our calling and our gifting. And if you don't have the gift of teaching, don't teach.
Yeah. Amen. What has been, and this will be our last question, what has been the best part and what has been the hardest part of being a pastor's wife?
Good question. There was this book written years ago about being a pastor's wife that was called High Call, High Privilege. It's a high call. And if you're called to something high, there are high expectations. I believe that there are freedoms that other people have that I do not have as a pastor's wife because I don't want to stumble someone. And so there are things that I will not do because I don't want someone to see me doing something and it would hurt them. Yeah. And so I try and live in the public's eye as best as I can. And then at the same time, that's really hard. I think in Job, it talked about that he asked God for wisdom for his going out and coming in. Like, how do I do it, God? It's just as hard. Sometimes just walking across campus. Yeah. Because if someone stops me, but I'm coming because I have to record this and I don't say hi, then they think I was rude, but really I just had an appointment. or someone's going to come up and cry and ask me to bear a burden that's not mine and they should really be at the counselor. So I'd say, well, you should call so-and-so. And they feel like maybe it's the brush off, and it's not a brush off because I'm just doing
There are thousands of people who would want the same thing. Yeah.
Right. Or I've had women who say, I really feel like God's called that you should disciple me. And I'm like, well, I don't disciple people. I mean, it's not that I'm not called. Generally, where I do my discipling is within the women's ministry, and you're on the steering committee.
Yeah.
If I can impact the 15 people on the steering committee who impact the people that they're over, who impact the next group of people, then I'm more effective than if I'm trying to impact everybody, right?
Yes.
And so even Moses' father-in-law told him that. He would get up in the morning and there'd be long lines of people that wanted Moses to adjudicate all the problems. And his father-in-law, Jethro, he said, what you're doing is not wise. You should name leaders of 10, leaders of 100, leaders of whatever, so that they're doing this work. And if something's really hard and it comes up the food chain and you've got to do it, then take that one. Take the really difficult one. And so I try and live wisely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it will overwhelm me. So going back to this lady that wanted to interview me about being a pastor's wife, she said, well, what's going on? I said, I can't keep up with the correspondence. I can't keep up with the weddings, with the baby showers. I'm trying to do women's ministry and blah, 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 blah. And she goes, well, pastors have secretaries. Why don't pastors' wives have secretaries? I was like, Epiphany. Are you kidding me? Like I could have a secretary that would help me stay on top of all these things. And so after she left, I got to hire the first part-time person to help me carry the load. And I know not every church has the budget for that, but thank you, Jesus, that this church has provided for me to have people who come alongside so I can do more, because they're helping me carry the load.
That's so good. And I do think that's a point to the congregation, the people, because I watch the same with my mother-in-law, who's a pastor's wife, and I see the heavy weight of expectations on her shoulder and not wanting to let people down because one, you get slack. And so let me just speak to some women today because I've seen this. I've witnessed this. I've felt it sometimes at a past church that I was at where I didn't feel like I'm like, they pay attention to all those other people, but I don't seem to get, and it's such a silly expectation because I don't feel like we're being considerate of the pastors' wives and the calling that they have, but the workload and the people load that they have in their lives as well. And so I think it goes both ways. Like you're fighting hard to try to kind of be all things to all people because of your position. I think on our end as a congregation, we need to be considerate of that and really gracious and understand, okay, maybe the pastor's wife is not the person that I go to with all of my problems. There are plenty of women who are on staff. There are plenty of women who are part of the congregation that I can go to. It does not need to be the pastor's wife. And if that pastor's wife is unable to serve you in that way, that's okay. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you. It doesn't mean she doesn't care for the congregation or love her husband and support that ministry. I'm passionate about that because I walk through it, with my mother-in-law and just feel for her. Not that she ever complains, just like you, Lenny. You don't complain. You just do it. You keep going through it. But I think if there's understanding on both ends, it can really help.
Skip's called to be the pastor. I'm called to be his wife.
Yes.
And so if I stay in that lane and know that that's where I fit, then that's the best
you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. If you want a part 2 of this, I know we had so many questions. Let us know on our Instagram at allthethings.podcast. If you haven't had a chance to rate and review us, scroll down from iTunes, give us a quick rating and review. We love to hear your feedback, your heart, and what you want to hear from us. If you have topic ideas, please send them our way. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
For behind the scenes videos and photos, as well as info about our upcoming guests, follow along with us on Instagram at allthethings.podcast. You can keep up with Lenya at Lenya Heitzig and Lindsay at lindsay.maestas. If you'd like to listen to past episodes or learn more about us, visit the allthethingspodcast.com.